Hi, this is my module for discussion. Consider current organizations right now, given the state of organizations as you understand them. What are the three most pressing questions or problems facing organizations? How do the four approaches to theorizing organizational issues help us frame how we answer these questions? What other issues interact with them, compound, complicate, or limit the kinds of answers we're likely to receive? I have to say I had a difficult time with this chapter. Given the current state of organizations, I think the three most important questions posed by this chapter are: should researchers apply knowledge to or derive knowledge from an organization? That is, should they start with an existing theory and see how an organization may fit it, or study an organization on its own terms? Also found on page 146, do social realities such as organizations have objective or subjective existence, i.e., do they exist on their own or only in people's minds? Then from page 155, how reasoning in organizations becomes grounded in what works. The postpositive approach believes organizations are independent of the people who work within it, so we need to think about the whole rather than the people who come and go. This makes me think of one of the facilities I go to. It's a mental health nursing home, and it has a very high employee turnover. Even though we rarely see the same employees, the changes in the employees doesn't make much of a difference on the facility and what we do with them. With the interpretive approach, people are what make the organization. It wouldn't exist without them and their viewpoints. The critical approach tells us that what has happened in the past shapes how an organization works. And postmodern is similar to critical, but it also considers how social reality can change. Getting conflicting answers can complicate understanding, or too many possible answers, and if those answering the questions dismiss others' approaches. The authors of this textbook individually take different approaches to organizational communication research, yet we believe all perspectives make valuable contributions. Page 161. Discuss your personal ontology, epistemology, and exology. Apply it to an organizational communication question you or have struggled with in the past. Explain each of the concepts as they relate to how you understand and attempt to frame your question. I've never really thought about this, but I would say my ontology, epistemology, and axology can change from one day to the next. At the moment, I would go with an organization has its own existence, learning by observation, and listening to the organizational members as individuals. One question that I keep thinking about came from page 146. Can one understand these social realities through observation, or must they be directly experienced? Going from what I said, it is possible to understand social realities through observation and by learning about the members' mindsets. In what ways does sense-making and structuration help you understand problems faced in modern organizations? Pick an example and apply these concepts as discussed in the text to the problem. Using them, explain the problems and concepts. Sense-making is a type of learning process where over time you learn how, in this case, an organization works. How the organization works may not make sense at first, but over time you learn the steps and there is less ambiguity. On page 185, Wick's model is explained as organization members muddle through complexities perceived over time what works and collectively reduce equality, however you say that word, and make sense of their workplace. Structurations help by explaining the patterns, actions we do to keep an organization moving forward by reproducing itself. A basic example of sense making that I can think of is learning a new skill. At first, the steps may not make sense, but as you practice and learn why things are done that way, it begins to make sense. To continue with the example with structuration, you are creating a structure by acting within it, page 186. As you make sense of how to process actions, you are able to adapt them over time to make them more efficient. Sorry, my cat decided to come say hi again. Using the material from Chapter 4, break down the video lecture as lecture you watched. How do the ideas presented reflect or fit into the week's materials? What is Bob's ontology, epistemology, and axology perspective? Why do you believe that to be the case, and what other concepts from the chapter do you use to help you interpret this lecture? Overall, I thought this was an enjoyable lecture. The things that stuck out were, for the most part, bosses are competent. You need to look into a lot of studies before determining a theory, and bosses need to think of their actions and what they say as it can affect employees. On page 162, the text talks about combining approaches. Insider research contributes detailed cases of organizational communication that, taken together with cases of other organizations, may help construct more robust general theories. On the other hand, theoretically informed research may identify broad patterns in organizational communication that can help those doing insider research make sense out of hundreds of separately collected observations. This is similar to what Bob does. He looks at case studies, compares them, finds patterns, and then he listens to people's stories pertaining to that topic. I think Bob's perspectives are similar to that of the interpretive approach. His ontology is relativism, epistemology is interpretation, and axology. From what I heard, the organization's culture is developed through communication and how bosses, managers treat others. You need to focus on more than one peer-reviewed article, since those are influenced by the individual's personal biases. But when you look at many, you can find patterns. Then he talks to members to get their own views. Thank you.